call your senators, call your congresspeople, call your senators and tell them that Chuck Schumer can no longer be leader.
Ah, interesting. None of these Democrat senators who broke with the party are up for re-election in 2026. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. And yes, last night, the Senate finally voted to end the longest government shutdown in American history. And you might be asking yourself, what did it achieve? 40 days of the government shutdown. What did we come away with? Absolutely nothing. What a great use of our politicians' time, huh? Now, Democrats are absolutely furious today, as did Trump and the Republicans in the filibuster. Did they go nuclear? No, it's just that a few Democrats broke ranks, went behind Chuck Schumer's back, and voted with Republicans. Ooh, ouch. That's what we're going to talk about in the video today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Helps the channel. Grab yourself some American First merch, and let's jump into this. So yes, Democrats are calling for Chuck Schumer's head on a platter this morning as they feel that he is no longer fit to lead the party. Ouch. And we're going to go through a bunch of video responses and clips from Democrats who, again, are pissed. So why are Democrats so outraged about this? Well, I mean, Democrats were the one who've been voting to keep the government shut down because they want extensions on the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Now, did they get that in this agreement? No. Democrats essentially didn't get much. What they got was a promise from Republicans that they would address the Affordable Care Act subsidies issue here in the future, and then also that they would rehire some of the employees that were permanently laid off by the shutdown. And that, as we'll see here with our first one, Bernie Sanders, did not make Democrats very happy.
Tonight, 8 Democrats voted with the Republicans to allow them to go forward on this continuing resolution. And to my mind, this was a very, very bad vote. What it does, first of all, is it raises health care premiums for over 20 million Americans by doubling, and in some cases tripling or quadrupling. People can't afford that when we are already paying the highest prices in the world for health care. Number 2, it paves the way for 15 million people to be thrown off of Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Studies show that will mean that some 50,000 Americans will die every year unnecessarily. And all of that was done to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1%. As everybody knows, just on Tuesday, we had an election all over this country. And what the election showed is that the American people want us to stand up to Trumpism, to his war against working class people, to his authoritarianism. That is what the American people wanted, but tonight, that is not what happened.
So yes, the Democrats essentially got absolutely nothing out of the deal other than some loose promises that it may get talked about in the future. Now, who were these Democrats that broke ranks and went behind Chuck Schumer's back? Well, let's take a look. All right, so here we go. Here are the Democrat senators who just caved Donald Trump and the GOP. It says these Democrats just caved on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies, voting to reopen the government without protecting millions from skyrocketing premiums. We've got Senator Maggie Hassan, Tim Kaine, Dick Durbin, Angus King, John Fetterman, who was already voting yes, Jackie Rosen, Catherine Cortez Masto, and Jen Shaheen. Now, you might be asking yourself, why did they do this? Well, we don't really know exactly yet. We'll have to talk to them, but there is something interesting that's the same about all 8 of these Democrats, and that is this. Ah, interesting. None of these Democrat senators who broke with the party are up for re-election in 2026. Why is that relevant? Well, they know at the end of the day, if they're not up for re-election until 28 or 30, that this will have zero consequences on them 2 to 4 years from now. Everybody will have forgot about it, the way that how fast the news cycle works, right? So this, I think, has a lot to do with it. Now, me personally, I've been critical of both sides about this shutdown. I think it was absolutely a waste. It turned out to be a giant waste. But at the end of the day, Democrats were the ones voting no to keep this government shut down. I have disagreed with the reason why. Do I think the Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act system is an absolute disaster, and the fact that premiums are going to probably double and triple for a lot of Americans is a huge problem? Yes, it's got to get fixed. However, holding Americans hostage to get your way on this, when this is something that could very easily have been voted on outside of this, I wasn't a fan of to begin with. But a lot of Democrats are still furious that the shutdown ended. So prominent Democrat influencer Harry Sisson, I think his name is, Harry J. Sisson, that's his account. The only reason I know who this is because of the video of Trump dropping feces on him from the jet. Not trying to talk trash, but I figure he is a pretty prominent figure in the Democrat politics scene. So let's see what he had to say about Democrats' decision.
There you have it. Democrats just caved and bent the knee to Donald Trump and the Republicans. The government has been shut down for 40 days, and one of the main things that Democrats were asking for is an extension of the ACA subsidy so people have affordable health care that they can access. And the Republicans left it out of the bill, and we agreed. We agreed to that. People's premiums were doubling, tripling. And now the agreement is that we hope Republicans vote on it in December, which doesn't even guarantee a vote in the House. It is pathetic.
So yes, furious that the government is going to reopen, most likely today when senators actually vote on the real bill, because last night was the cloture vote to get past the filibuster, get the 60 votes, and then today they'll actually vote on the bill itself, or to actually extend the CR, and they'll only need 50 votes. And unless 10 people decide to vote no today, obviously the government's going to reopen. And for me, I am glad. Like, I would much, like, guys, here's the thing. I see people like, oh, let's keep it shut down forever. You want a functioning government in this country, okay? I promise. The left wants it, the right wants it, okay? Look at some places that don't have functional governments, like Somalia. Do you want to be like that country? I mean, maybe being a pirate would be fun, but I think I'm good. I'll choose for a good functioning government, personally. And now because of this, yes, Democrats want Chuck Schumer's head. There are already calls from a bunch of Democrat politicians calling for Chuck Schumer to step down, as he is no longer useful to the party. And since he was the first one to call for Schumer to step down, step aside, we'll play his clip first.
Chuck Schumer needs to be replaced as minority leader for caving to Donald Trump. Look, I may be the first and only member of Congress to say this, but someone needs to start speaking the truth. If you're not willing to fight to stop premium hikes on 20 million Americans, then what are you willing to fight for? The Democratic Party needs to be strong. We need to stand up for the health care of ordinary Americans. The donors and the establishment won't like me speaking out, but I'm confident that you will have my back.
Now, to push back a little bit on Senator Khanna there, Chuck Schumer did not cave. Chuck Schumer voted no. Where Chuck Schumer failed is keeping his party in lockstep. He is the leader of the party, and he was not able to keep them combined as a coalition in lockstep against voting to open the government. That is where his failure lies, is that his own party members went behind his back to make an agreement with Donald Trump and Senate Republicans, and that doesn't look good for his leadership. All right, then you also got Senate candidate from Maine, Graham Plattner, who's gaining a lot of traction and popularity, running against Susan Collins. I actually disagree with him on this, but I actually do like a lot of his message overall. Had this to say.
Good morning, everyone. Graham here. Well, it's not really good morning at all. It's gray, rainy, and dreary, but more importantly, it is a bleak morning for millions of American families, because last night, some Senate Democrats caved. They caved and they voted with Republicans. And now, up to 20 million Americans are going to watch their health care premiums double, triple, and in some cases quadruple. Now we are on a path to watch 15 million Americans possibly lose access to health care insurance in the first place. This happened because Chuck Schumer failed in his job yet again, because they do not understand that when we fight, we win. When we hold the line for working families, for working people, we win. But they don't get this. They see all of this as a game. These are just numbers on a sheet of paper, not people's lives. But I can tell you, down here in Eastern Maine, a doubling of healthcare premiums destroys families. That's not an exaggeration, it's not hyperbole. That is real, and it is going to happen now. We need to elect leaders that want to fight. We need to elect leaders that care about people, that care about the actual outcomes of policies. That is why I am asking all of you, call in today. Call your senators. Call your congresspeople. Call your senators and tell them that Chuck Schumer can no longer be leader.
So there you go. More calls for Chuck Schumer's head. But this is where I'll push back on that as well. Look, I get it. Yes, this is going to massively negatively impact American families. But you know what else was massively negatively impacting American families? The government shutdown. In fact, SNAP benefits are turned off. The fact that federal workers aren't being paid. The fact that air traffic controllers are literally driving for DoorDash to try to keep their families afloat. The fact that service members were about to not be paid. So while you're holding the government hostage to get your way on the Affordable Care Act, you are also doing far more damage to the American people, keeping the government shut down. Now, I get fighting for it, but that should take place where it's going to take place now in an actual debate in the Senate with its own standalone bill. All right, so where are we at in conclusion? Yes, the Senate, either today or in the next couple of days, as we see here, Republicans seek swift approval of deal to reopen government. Late night vote that exposed a rift among Democrats cleared the way for a plan that would end the longest U.S. government shutdown ever. It was not immediately clear when the government could resume normal operations. Once that vote goes through, again, you only need 51 votes this time. And again, I doubt that we're going to have all those Democrats plus the two Republicans over the top of the 50 votes all of a sudden decide to vote no after voting yes. Could happen, I guess. But obviously, we're now just in the motions of getting through and reopening the government. So who won, right? Who wins in this political battle of government shutdown? Well, the reality is, and a lot of people that hate Trump are going to hate to hear this, Donald Trump and the Republicans win in a landslide from public perception over this. At the end of the day, Republicans were voting to open the government, and Donald Trump and Senate Republicans were able to go across the aisle, bring in enough Democrats into their coalition to vote and reopen the government. And you can already see the massive blowback, infighting between Democrats right now who are furious that their party has fractured. And in a time when MAGA is in its own political civil war, this would have been the time for Democrats to get some big wins heading into the 2026 elections. But now it looks like they're about to go through their own civil war as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Democrat Party in the next couple weeks. All the infighting, screaming, bickering. Will Chuck Schumer be replaced? Is AOC going to primary Chuck Schumer? Probably now. Just have to wait and see. Gonna do it for this one. Catch you on the next video.